On July 23rd, 2021, Tom Fantasy's 301-hour-long speedrun on Black Ops 3 Nocturne Tone would end to a reset, taking a total of 21 days to complete, also making it the longest Call of Duty Zombies game ever and the second longest speedrun in gaming history. So why did this speedrun last as long as it did? How come barely anyone has heard of this world record? And what makes this speedrun different from others? First, let me explain why this speedrun is unique from the rest. If we take a look at games which are well known in the speedrunning community such as Super Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, Trackmania, and Minecraft, they all have one thing in common: an official ending. In Minecraft, you have to beat the Ender Dragon so you can escape to the overworld through a portal. In Super Mario 64, you have to defeat Bowser to save Princess Peach. Similar can be said for Ocarina of Time. Link has to stop and defeat Ganon from taking over Hyrule. Lastly, Trackmania. Despite not having a final boss like other games, it still has an ending because it's based around racing. However, unlike the others, Call of Duty Zombies does not have an official ending. So how is Zombies a speedrun if it does not have an official ending? Well, there's a reason why I said it does not have an official ending, though it still has one. If we start at the first game that introduced zombies, Call of Duty World at War, it introduced the first map named Nocturne Tone. While simple, it had many flaws, one of which was entities. In every zombie map, it has a specific amount of objects and sounds. These are counted as entities. As an example, World at War Nocturne Tone has a base set of 191 entities. At first, this does not sound like an issue until you realize they add up every 50 milliseconds. In just 1 second, 3,820 entities will be added. Once again, this does not sound like an issue, although the game is coded in 32-bit, meaning the maximum signed integer value is 2,147,483,647. So the entities that add up every 50 milliseconds go towards this number. Now, when the entities eventually reach this number, it tries to go over it, but it can't. Because of this, the game forcefully resets you back to the loading screen, which brings you to round 1, hence the name a reset. What makes this so unique is each map can only extend the reset so far, which eventually maxes it out. This means each person attempting to break a world record has to max out the reset so they can have an equal chance of beating the record, although beating the record isn't as easy as it seems. Since the entities have to reach a 32-bit limit for a reset to happen, it takes a very long time until the game resets. I'm not talking 10, 20, hell even 30 hours. I'm talking over 70 hours of in-game time till the map resets, and that is small compared to other maps. On Verrückt, it has a reset of over 80 hours. Shinonuma is over 100 hours. Hell, World at War Nocturne Tone has a reset of 160 hours. Shockingly, this is small compared to Black Ops 3 Nocturne Tone, which has a whopping 301 in-game hour reset. Thankfully, you can pause your game, right? Yes, you can pause your game. Unfortunately, that does not save you from the hardest part of the speedrun. See, when you launch World at War, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, or Black Ops 3, the game immediately adds milliseconds towards a 32-bit limit. This forces the speedrunner to play an average amount per day because the game freezes after 24.8 days. So, the freeze becomes a major problem, especially in Black Ops 3 Noct. You are forced to play an average of 12 hours and 8 minutes per day for almost 25 days to avoid the freeze. Even if you're just 1 second off from resetting, the game would freeze. Yeah, to make Tom's round 255 record on Noct sound more impressive, he forced himself to play 17.5 hours every day for 10 days. Then averaged roughly 14 hours per day up until round 255. If you count all 19 days he played to the max round, 255, he averaged 15 hours per day. What the fuck? Now, this isn't the only thing Tom had to do in his world record. On top of the freeze, Tom had to deal with RNG, and I'm talking an immense amount of RNG. See, on every COD Zombies map, there's an object called a mystery box. This box contains a specific amount of weapons, however it varies on every map. Though, on Black Ops 3 Noct, there are a total of 34 weapons. One of these weapons is called a Thunder Gun. This weapon contains 2 shots in its magazine and 12 in its reserve. Despite the small ammo, it deals infinite damage, which is crucial for the map. The reason it is crucial is because the zombies over time get stronger. In fact, they get so strong using powerful weapons such as the Ray Gun Mark II, which deals over 2,300 damage per shot, is rendered near useless past round 80. So, players are forced to use a thunder gun. However, this becomes tricky. If you remember, I said there are 34 weapons in the mystery box. This means you have a 1 in 34 chance of getting a thunder gun. Thankfully, there are ways to increase that chance. One of the ways players are able to increase their chance is a perk called Mule Kick. This perk allows a player to hold 3 weapons instead of 2. Also, if a player has a ray gun in their inventory, the box purposely lowers the chance of getting the Ray Gun Mark II impossible. So instead of 34 weapons in the box, it lowers it to 30 weapons in the box. Also, this number includes special equipment such as monkey bombs and the Annihilator. These 2 weapons, or special equipment, can only be pulled out of the box once, meaning the weapon count decreases from 30 to 28. Still, that's a low chance. It doesn't help that a player needs an average of thunder gun from the box every 5.5 minutes for the entire game to reach round 255, the max round. This is slightly above the average time it takes to get a thunder gun from a 28 weapon box, although knowing RNG in video games, it isn't very friendly. So the chances of someone tying Tom's record is very unlikely, and it gets even more unlikely since there are a few things I did not mention: Gobblegums and the Wonder Fizz. First, let me explain what Gobblegums are. In Black Ops 3, Gobblegums are gumballs in which, once eaten, will give you a special ability. Because of this, the Gobblegums are split into 2 categories: Classic Gobblegums and Mega Gobblegums. Although, I will specifically talk about Classic Gobblegums since that was the category Tom played under. In total, there are 15 Classic Gobblegums. However, the game limits the amount you can use in the game to only 5. Because of this, Tom used 5 specific Gobblegums. The 5 gums he chose were Alchemical, which has 2 activations and lasts 60 seconds. This Gobblegum gives you 1 bullet for every 10 points you earn. Next, he used In Plain Sight and Anywhere But Here. In Plain Sight makes zombies ignore you for 10 seconds, and Anywhere But Here teleports you away from the zombies. These 2 gumballs are really useful when you are in a tricky situation. Lastly, he used another 2 Gobblegums named Firing All Cylinders and Armamental Accomplishment. Firing all cylinders allows a player to fire while sprinting, and Armamental Accomplishment makes the player switch weapons faster. Obviously, these 2 Gobblegums are pretty much useless, but since they are the best filler gumballs, Tom chose them. However, the 3 main gums he chose played a crucial part in the game, specifically Alchemical. This gumball can save a few trades from your game, which is very important if you want to reach round 255, because in a 301 hour speedrun, you will get some bad RNG. In fact, there are times where a player will do a trade which lasts over an hour. So keeping the average to 5 minutes and 30 seconds per thunder gun is very important. Unfortunately, like the box, the Gobblegums are RNG based. See, to get the Gobblegums, you have to hit the Gobblegum machine. Once you hit the machine, it gives you a 20% chance of getting a specific gumball. However, the chance increases when you get the other gumballs. This is called a cycle, essentially meaning you get 5 gumballs in a cycle. And the more you hit it, the chance of getting a specific gumball increases, as is disposed of the other gumballs. On paper, it sounds like you could hit the gumball machine forever until you get what you want. Technically speaking, you could, but the machine costs money. The more times you hit the machine in a round, the more it costs. This becomes a problem past round 100 because the second time you hit the machine, it costs 1,024,500 points. And the third hit is 2,049,000 points. Yeah, this forces players to hit the machine only once a round so they can avoid losing millions of points. Despite the immense RNG with Gobblegums, there is one more RNG aspect, and that is the Wonder Fizz. This machine gives you perks which are not on Nocturne and Toten. One of these perks is Juggernog, which allows you to survive up to 4 hits. Another is Quick Revive, which revives you when you down. And lastly, Stamina Up. This perk increases the speed at which a player can run, and increases the duration of how long you can run. Obviously, these perks are pretty vital to the speedrun, although the Wonder Fizz is very RNG based. The reason it is more RNG based than the Gobblegum machine is because it has no perk cycles. So you could get the same perk over and over again, which is terrible considering how sketchy it is to hit the machine when you don't have Juggernog. Considering the sheer dedication you need to play an average of 12 hours every day for almost a month, month, and the amount of RNG required to reach round 255 before resetting, I think it's safe to say this is one of the greatest speedruns of all time. Well, it depends on who you ask. Is Super Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, Minecraft, and Trackmania more optimized than the 301 hour speedrun on Black Ops 3 Nocturne Tone? Yes. However, I want to ask you a question. How many speedrunners are willing to average 12 hours of playtime every day for almost a month, let alone pray for good RNG throughout the entirety of 300 plus hours? On top of those two, have near perfect decision making and good movement. Personally, I can't think of anyone besides Tom Fantasy, and that's what makes the speedrun so special. So is this speedrun one of the greatest of all time? Maybe. Whether people consider it one of the greatest or not, it's important to shed light on unknown records, especially this one. Thanks for watching.